Mrs. Euler? Here. Mrs. Kiefer? Here. Mr. Reynolds?
Here.
Mr. Vanziano?
Here.
Mrs. Wallace? Here. And Mr. Hart? I'm sorry. Thank you. So we will proceed with the election of officers and open meeting to nominations for chairman of the current school committee.
I'll nominate Stephanie Euler as chair. I'll second.
Do I have any other nominations? Nomination has been made for Stephanie Euler as chairman of the current school committee. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Mrs. Euler, you are the chairperson.
Thank you. I make a motion for Ryan Benziano for vice chair.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, agenda adjustments. I know that we have a couple.
We do. Under old business, I would like to remove item C. Both of those policies will need to be reviewed again. One has a need for clarification, the other one has conflicting language. So we need to remove those from tonight. On new business, I would like to remove item E because it has not been in the policy committee yet. I believe that's it.
I make a motion for those agenda adjustments as presented. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the emergency meeting of May 29th and June 30th. Do I have a second?
I'll second those corrections.
We can open it up for discussion. I know that there's a couple of things that I wanted to amend. One of them was under the regular meeting, Jody, under D, possible future agenda items, the third bullet that talks about the voting for. So the third bullet's okay, but then the voting for needs to just be moved under item 6, approval of warrants, because that was actually the voting for the approval of the warrants. I think it's just in the wrong place. So under the regular committee minutes, you see? Yeah, it just needs to be over under approval of warrants. And then under the emergency meeting, back under the May 29th, under item 6, adjournment, everybody voted to adjourn. There was no abstentions then. Are there any other adjustments that anyone saw? Do I have an approval to accept those minutes with those 2 adjustments? Second? Yeah, second. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, committee acknowledgements. So I just want to thank the town of Hermon for getting out and speaking loud and clear, and a lot of people voted, and that really shows how much everybody cares about our community. Congratulations to Tony for getting elected. Really excited to be able to have your expertise on the school committee and to be able to work and collaborate alongside you. And as far as the public comments from last time, there was a lot of comments in regards to the code of ethics, and that will be coming back next time and needs to go back to the policy committee. So we'll definitely bring that back, because that is definitely something that is very important. Do I have any other committee acknowledgements? Tony? Haley?
I want to welcome Mrs. Duran, and I wanted to thank you for your leadership thus far. It's been warmly received, so I appreciate that. And I also just wanted to give a special thanks to Katie Bartley. She has been an advocate and a hardworking volunteer and all sorts of things at the middle school. I know she's kind of wrapping up that season as her child moves on to high school, and so I just want to give a special thanks to her for all of the things that she does and all of the ways that she does them. She's been works tirelessly, and sometimes that's thankless. So thanks to Katie Bartley.
I just wanted to welcome Tony and Mr. Durham to the team. Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
I'll just echo that I'm glad that Mr. Darling was considered the president of 20 years helping out. He's been really looking forward to continuing to work.
Thank you. Next up, we have public comment, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on agenda items, contribute info that may be of interest to the school committee, or ask clarifying questions. Please wait to be recognized and identify yourself before speaking. It's not the time to register complaints or promote a personal agenda. Please remember that you may not identify any person by name or job function, and we would like to welcome Ed Ford.
My name is Ed Ford, I live in Hermon, and I do apologize, I wasn't able to review the entire packet. In the future, I'd really like to be able to, if I have questions or concerns, I'd like to be able to send them either to the school board committee members or the superintendent prior to having to come up and do a public comment. So I apologize for that. I see in the June cost center report, there's an additional $65,000 in the prior superintendent's salary line. Seems like a large amount of additional money without explanation. Is that an agenda item tonight? I will wait for an explanation for this budget item. It's not on the agenda. Just curious what this additional money was part of. If it's okay, Madam Chair, I may send these questions to you if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and just read through them, knowing you're not going to answer them this evening. But if it's okay, I'll forward them to you. I just wanted the entire school board notified of this additional expense, as it was clearly has already been decided because it's on the cost report. Was there a conversation with the entire school board about this additional, it looks like salary consideration? Under what authority does the chair, board, or the school board, without discussion to vote, get to give superintendent resigning an additional $65,000? Did this original contract allow for any consideration of any additional money while resigning? I see also that the ethics policy will be sent back to subcommittee, is that correct? Thank you. And so last, Hermon School Board has a policy, GCQC, in accepting resignations. I suggest the school committee consider adding that resignations shall be submitted by letter. Resignation letter is how to leave a job in a professional and positive way. It provides information to the public and the teachers and the administration. It also gives the school board time to respond. Should the resignation be because of a better job offer or the school board, that way the school board would have an opportunity maybe to provide a counter offer or have some discussion on that before the resignation letter is actually submitted and accepted. A resignation letter is also an official document that you and your employer can use to record the day you gave notice. Another benefit of a resignation letter is it allows you to show respect to your employer and demonstrate that you care about how you're leaving may affect the school district. This also allows you to keep a positive relationship with your employer in case you want to ask for a recommendation or a referral. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. And I actually like what you said there for, there was some words I heard about time to respond, and I think it will be important for us as we move forward to really revisit the policy as to what should be brought to the school committee for the first try, because out of respect for us and the opportunity to be able to reply, there's a chain of command that should be followed, and that's how a lot of items can definitely be resolved. So I'll really look forward to us moving forward with that. That's how it will really build positive relationships. That's not silencing anybody, that's just really giving the opportunity to be able to solve problems a lot quicker and faster. So I really look forward to us moving forward with that approach. Next up is a presentation.
Yes, we want that Mrs. Dean this time, as I understand it, new, but very seasoned working coordinators with her presentation on goals for child.
We'd be coming to the front.
I didn't bring my agenda down here with me, but I know that later on the agenda there, you're going to be speaking about title funds. So I tried to address some of this ahead of time in your packet by putting an explanation of what each of the title funds are meant to be used for, what we've used them for previously, and then the amount that we've got last year, or that we've received last year, versus our anticipated amount for this year. There we go. So that's kind of just the same overview of what we had before. And this was the last part that was a part of the packet that shows the amount of money that we should be getting. In order to receive these monies, we need to first look at the data that we have. We do a comprehensive needs assessment and then do some school-wide goals. Sometimes they spill into other areas of the district, but our main title school, especially for Title I, is the elementary school. And I'm just going to go back for 1 minute. The Title I is for academic achievement. That is where our Title I classrooms come in for our younger elementary schools. The budget, as a part of the title funding, we pay for 3 teachers and an ed tech that does not come out of our budget, that work directly with our students that are most in need of some early intervention. The second area of title funds is about recruiting and maintaining high quality teachers. So with that, we have spent money on professional development in the past. We worked with Great Schools Partnerships, and then we also do work to expand the knowledge of our teachers and also our principals. Title IV allows us to improve learning conditions. Sometimes that might be using extra money to work towards some of our goals. Other times it might look like technology. We've had different things funded throughout all of our schools through that portion of the title funds. And then the fifth section is the Rural Education Initiative, and that is meant for schools that might not be in the position to be able to win some of the grant awards that are out there due to their size. Just going on to these, again, are the money. We have 3 goals for title funds, and the application requires for us to have a math goal and a literacy goal, and we've added a 3rd goal around reporting. So we want for 60% of our students to achieve their growth goals in math from fall to spring, to do the same in literacy, and then we want to revise our reporting system, report cards especially for K4. I have a handout for you too, and that also talks about some of the goals that came from the comprehensive needs assessment. And from that group of people, there are teachers, there are title staff, there are administrators, Jesse Keith was one of the people, the school board, school committee member, and then also a parent of an elementary school elementary school student. And so I made copies of those as well, just so that you can have those. And I already said this part that the funds from the ESSA grants support 3 of our teachers, our 2 title teachers, a teacher for class size reduction, and then also an ed tech. Their wages and benefits are taken directly from those grants. And that's what I have for you until I'm up here again later.
Go back to your report goals real quick.
I'm sorry?
Can you go back to your goals real quick?
Oh, sure. There we go, yes. They're on the paper that I handed out to you as well. Yes?
Do we mean by the end of the 23-24 school year?
24-25 school year. Oh, goodness, I have a mistake. Okay, thank you. We'll update that. Thank you.
Next up, we'll move on to personnel resignations.
We have 3 resignations. Isaiah Cutshaw from the Hermon Middle School Resource Room, Gwendolyn Lynn from Tertiary Urine Resource Room, and Walter Gogan with Amazon.
Next up, employment.
And we are recommending Angela Smart Davis for your Hermon Middle School guidance counselor. I do have a redacted copy of her resume here if you're anyone is interested, have to ask you to see.
I make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to employ Angela Smart Davis. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? I should have asked first. Any abstentions?
I'll abstain because it's middle school.
Motion carries.
And under co-curricular activities, we have a new person for the position, that is your auditorium supervisor. And I'm very hopeful that you're going to approve this tonight because we need her.
I don't know if we've always voted on those ones in the past. Do you want a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the high school co-curricular auditorium supervisor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Well, it's a new position, can you tell us more about what it is, and is it in the budget of?
She's new to the position. I don't believe it's a new position. The reason I wanted the school committee to go ahead with the motion and vote on it is because we're obviously going to be using her outside of just co-curricular with stage events and that kind of thing. So I thought it would be good to have you aware of her as well.
I'll ask up front. Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, excuse absence of school committee members. From May 29th, we have Chris, Debbie, and David. And from June 3rd, we had our student rep. I make a motion to excuse those committee members. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, the superintendent search, the RFP discussion. Do you want to say anything about that, or you want me to take it up?
Why don't you go right ahead?
Okay. So I want us to discuss as a committee, I would suggest that we start the full superintendent search in July, right away. And one of the things that we have the opportunity to do, as we know from our MSMA training, is we can have MSMA do it, and they can open it up for a statewide and nationwide search, or we can put out an RFP and get more estimates. I will tell you, from what I know, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive to put out the RFP, but I just would like to open it up for discussion from the committee. Did anybody have anything?
Yeah, do you want to go over the numbers or more about what it costs, or?
I don't have the specifics for the numbers. I don't remember what it was that she, does anybody remember what Eileen had told us? Was it around 10,000? Do you remember, Brian?
It wasn't, she didn't give a specific price for the full, because she gave us a cost estimate to do an intro search rather than the full superintendent search would be different.
I think we need to better understand the cost analysis of spending that kind of money where it's a service they provide, right? Because we pay a lot of money in dues for municipal management, so is it something they already will do for us and post those Indeed and filter the resumes? Do you really need to, like, are you looking for?
I'm looking for, so we could use MSMA, as most school districts do, or we could look outside of them, which is going to be significantly more money. So do we want to move forward with looking to see what other people offer that service, or do we want to go with MSMA?
I'm all set with MSMA, so if everybody agrees to that, we won't care what the extra money will be.
Yeah, based off of time, we do an RFP, it adds at least another 30 days into the process, so we're obviously under time constraint if we're looking at December. So I'm in support of MSMA as well, rather than doing an external RFP. without knowing what we get and timeline that we create.
Debbie, do you have any input on what RSU 87 is?
I think we should do MSMA before, because they have, hours to be able to reach a lot of folks in using something. So, and they already have a system in place because it's something that they do. So, I'm expressing the opinion that I think that MSMA would be the way to go, to get the best results.
And we're going to add something.
This includes the feedback, the
100%, yeah. I think it's important for us to make a decision to use MSMA tonight or do the RFP, so exactly what you said, we can start to move forward with the next steps with getting the training for Eileen, probably having some additional meetings, maybe even in July, because having community feedback is important. We'll look to the administrators to see who they want for teachers, who we have from the public, parents, etc. So yes.
We're obviously getting under a time constraint here, so can we make a decision tonight that we'll stay with MSMA? And then I think this deserves actually a full separate meeting where we discuss from the training that's needed to the sensing that we want, to review the job description and how we want to move forward as its own full agenda rather than a simple agenda item on our team.
Yeah, agreed.
So could I make a motion, or I move to use MSMA as our agent for superintendent search.
Yeah, and I would second that. And then we would open it up for more discussion. Before we do the vote. You have anything else to add?
So second.
Yeah, second. And no other discussion from you?
Well, the only other discussion is I'd like to move forward with a meeting, as soon as next week for us all to get together to go over the steps that we need to do to move forward with this. Because when you start looking at what it would take to send people, include that information into adjustments in the job description, and the process to do that, and then publish it. Time is of the essence.
So are you asking for a workshop, or are you asking for executive session for those?
I'm asking for a special committee meeting.
Yeah, not an executive session.
No, it's an executive session, and it's not that I'm not interested in external input, we just need to make a plan. So having a workshop for having a plan, how we're going to deal with it, I don't think we all need to be on the same sheet before we start the workshop.
I think what I should do is reach out to Eileen and see when she could potentially come and help provide us with that outline. I mean, I think some of us have ideas of what that could look like. Do you want to add anything?
Well, I think going with an SMA is certainly a good decision. I would like to know whether or not you want me included on those meetings, because I agree, the sooner we get moving on this, the better. Time is of the essence, and it's important to keep your schools feeling supported, safe, and it would be nice to pay a full-time person involved.
I'd like you to be included, just because you could give feedback and mentorship afterwards of, you receive the class, but often the information doesn't sink in until later, and it's nice to have a resource to go to, and I hope that you'd be able to be that resource for us.
Actually, if you could be willing to reach out to Eileen and ask her when we could have a meeting and what those next steps look like, that would be amazing. And then potentially looking at a meeting next week or the week after, potentially on Monday. I know it starts to be tricky in the summer.
Yeah, and some of us don't have as flexible schedule as other people, so you give the board members enough time to be able to be involved in.
Yeah. So potentially, if we could look at a Monday around 6:30.
I would try for next Monday, if at all possible, Monday after that, and then it'll be available.
Yep, perfect.
So do we need to vote on
Yes.
MSMA? So there was a
Motion
motion
for
to second.
Yeah. So any other discussion? Did you have something to add?
I think that it's good.
And any other discussion? No. So any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you for looking into that for us, Patty. Sure. And then the next up is job description.
I don't know if you would like to postpone this until your meeting to talk about the job description. I think that's all part of the process, looking in that job description prior to asking an SMA to advertise or certainly what you expect of that individual. So if you want to go through it tonight, that's fine. If you want to look at it soon Monday, that's fine too.
I think we should wait to look at it because I think getting the feedback from the people that will be on the committee as well could be crucial. Patty, would you also be able to reach out to the administration to be able to see who they would like have added to the committee?
Certainly.
And then how do we go about determining who wants to be involved from parents? How's that been done in the past?
I'm not sure how it's done in the past, but I certainly can find out.
Okay.
It's sort of, can you clarify what you mean by committee and the things that you're asking for?
The hiring committee.
So you're sort of changing the process of the way we just did it, it sounds like you're talking about.
Exactly. For the interim, we chose just to have the school committee involved, and actually, the entire school committee may not be on the hiring committee that works through this process either. It may just be a couple of members that are part of that. Would you like to be involved?
Well, of course, I would support, that's what we're elected to do, but you're talking about parents being involved, so I'm just trying to understand how the committee is looking, because it's different than what we just did, so I'm trying to understand what you're talking about.
100%. So it would be what Eileen talked about in the training when she talked about what it could look like. And when you hire for a superintendent, typically you don't do the entire school committee normally. And then you involve members of the community as well, teachers, administration.
I thought that it was talking about feedback, I didn't realize that they were part of the hiring, the parent hiring.
And that's really what I look at this next meeting. It needs to be an organizational meeting. How are we going to do this? I mean, they gave us they put down a hearing on how to do an interim, but there's more to it. And I don't know what the more to is.
Absolutely.
So let's take the time to sit as a group and work through that process.
Tony, you want to add? Haley, what were you saying?
I was just saying, that's kind of why I was talking about workshops, so it's more of a work session versus a formality of passing around ideas, and we're editing what we're doing and meeting the plan at the next meeting. So I was thinking more of a workshop style.
No, it wouldn't be because we have Eileen be giving us the information for that. There will be a workshop where, like we did for the interim, we solicit feedback from the community for what do they want to see for the superintendent. Unfortunately, nobody attended that one, but absolutely there'll be a workshop like that at some point.
So when we hired Gary Gagne, we set up a committee to interview, I believe it was 4 candidates. They came back with a recommendation to us, and then we went from there. And that was Chris Selleck was on that committee, and Chris Patton, John Snyder, probably leave a few people up because I can't remember all of them, but we had people from the community that met and asked questions and then brought their favorite selections, 1, 2, and 3, to back to the board.
But I think it would be important to find out from the administrators who they want to have involved or who's interested in being involved. And then we can determine who else is on it when we have that next meeting. So for now, I'll make a motion to table the job description.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, the 2024-2025 school calendar revision. I'm not sure 100% what changed.
Well, what changed is during your negotiated agreement, negotiations with teachers, you eliminated 1 day from the school calendar, go from 183 days to 182, but you would revise the calendar with 183 days. So I met with the president of the Hermon Education Association to say what day could you possibly eliminate from the calendar without impacting students. The answer is to do away with that church date on November 26th. It's currently in service day right after teacher conferences, so it simply eliminate that day. There will be no school, no teacher. It does not change the student calendar at all.
I make a motion to approve the 2024-25 school calendar revision. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? The only thing I wanted to see is on November 5th, that is a remote day for PADS, the elementary school, and I wanted to see, Mrs. Stern, if you could potentially try to collaborate with the town to have that voting location changed to the high school. It would be less of an impact, we've heard from parents, it would be less of an impact. High schoolers don't have to have the daycare that elementary students have. So if we could try, it may be too soon, but if we could really try to collaborate with the town to get that voting location changed to the high school potentially, that would be great.
I'm looking at Mr. Ross.
So I think that could work. And if we are going to do something along that line, I would say this is the time to make the change. I think if I put my thinking cap on, we could still hold most students in school that day. The reality is a high school, it's a parking issue. And so if we looked at 9th and 10th in session, and we looked at our UTC staying in session, that cannot be remote. I think we probably could come up with a scheduling plan that would work at the high school. So I would say as long as we have a little time to plan, I think we could do it in a way possibly a lot differently than a remote day at the elementary.
Let's see what Melissa has to say to it.
You like that?
I like that.
Yeah, it's not-
I will help you. The only constraint that I want to make you aware of, when we look at this process with the town, it does take 6 months to get approved by the state. So you have to do 6 months prior to your election, and I believe we're about 5 months away. So that might be a constraint, because of the state requirements around voting locations. It may have changed since I worked with them last, but just be aware that that might be a challenge that we face with moving the location.
Okay, I appreciate it. We could at least look for June of next year.
I need to just look at this and see what we can do.
Thank you.
And once you know, just let us know. I think we can come up with a plan that would work much better given our age.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussions on the calendar? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, new business. Approval of the fund.
Yes, and this is the plan for spending title funds. I need your permission for us to apply for those funds. And I believe I spoke to one of you, and I don't recall which one, saying it would be very helpful if we got that approval next year in January, so that when we're doing the budget process and trying to determine how to spend our money, we have an idea of those funds that they approved, just to know for the future, try to do it all.
I make a motion to approve the superintendent to apply for Fed funds. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Any abstentions? Next up, I make a motion to approve the 2024-25 Hermon School Committee meeting schedule. Do I have a second?
Second, the discussion.
Discussion? Go ahead.
Consider moving this 2 December date to 9 December. Reason being, 2 December is the Monday after Thanksgiving break, and that didn't work so good this year. We ran into agenda problems, and just, I think it would be smoother if we met on the 9th, which would give the administrative staff a normal preparation week for the school committee meeting.
Any other discussion? Are you rescinding your second office, or?
I move to amend.
Yeah, second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. I make a motion to approve Aubrey Searway as the student representative from 2024 to 2026. I really appreciated our other student rep, Michael, being able to be involved in the process. We had a few candidates, and it was a very, very hard decision. So do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, subcommittee assignments. I'd like to make a motion for the finance committee to be Brian Benziano and myself. This is Jesse.
I'll second that.
Oh, do we want to do them all separately? Should we? Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, facilities and safety committee. I make a motion for Haley Keyser and Tony Reynolds.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, policy committee. I make a motion for Debbie Koalas and Tony Reynolds. Do I have a second? Any discussion?
I have this discussion. I think we may have been in violation of the negotiated agreement with our policy committee. And the reason I say that is in your negotiated agreement, under Article 13, says the permanent school department shall include a local professional discussion committee whose function shall be to assist the superintendent of schools in the Hermon School Committee in developing policies. This committee shall include all segments of the professional staff. Although the selection of the association member is the prerogative of the AGA, it shall consist of 8 members composed of a representative from the elementary, middle, and high school levels, building principals, the superintendent, and 1 member at large, usually the president of the AGA. And the professional discussion committee shall also consist of 2 school committee members and the superintendent for their designates. So I think we have to broaden the scope of that committee to make sure that it's not just limited to the school committee, but it includes the people as designated in your contract.
Perfect. So how could we go about doing that? Would you work with Aaron York and the administrators?
I had a call with Chelsea Knapp, who is the new APA president, to ask when they could meet, because as you might anticipate after a full day of school, they usually don't want to leave and then come back for a policy meeting, so we may need to adjust when we choose to meet with them.
And when you're having, that's more of a workshop style, when you're having a whole board of different people there,
it changes the dynamic of, it's more of a workflow when you're having all sorts of input.
Still be 2 school committee members.
Well, it sounds like Hermon committee members, and then you have your contract with your, it's always a public meeting, however you set it up.
It's still going to be a subcommittee, I would
Well,
assume.
it is still a subcommittee, but Mrs. Peter is right in that in the past, there have been, in some situations, not often, but occasionally, a public member might come in because they have a particular concern that they're bringing to your attention. And as far as the teacher involvement, to be very frank, we love getting them involved because it makes them aware of all the policies. There's a lot of discussion, no votes are usually taken, we make recommendations, then it always comes to the board for a first reading and a second reading.
So the only concern that I would have is when the next meeting could be, because there was some policies there that we wanted to be able to review. I believe that was the hire with the superintendent, wasn't it, Brian?
Yes, we've got GCF, GCFB, GCFBR, they all need to be reviewed.
I would ask Mrs. Knapp if she minds if we go ahead and do those the way we have been doing business with a clear understanding of that. But we will change our ways and do what we have said we will do. But I don't believe she will have any objection on those particular policies for us to just go ahead and get it published.
That would be awesome, thank you.
As far as your nomination, I think it's a direct conflict of interest where he has a child who's a student, who's a teacher in the school. I think having him on the policy committee where they were already going to have representation from the teachers in the union, having Tony sit on that policy committee seems.
I don't think it would be any different than myself being on it that has children within the school system.
It's different when you're controlling things, children, controlling,
There's no votes within that committee. It is my thought.
I understand what you're saying here, but everything's gonna come back from you guys for the first reading, second reading, and you will make a decision, or the board will make a decision on any policy. So whatever we dream up, and bring back, and it will go in front of Mrs. Durham and the lawyer before it even comes to us. All right, Patty?
Correct. We usually take the input from MSNA that it's already been approved by Rome, so unless we make some big change to that.
Yeah, we don't run them by Michael all the time, to your point, but you're exactly right, we use the templates.
That's what I had to say in that format, taking consideration of the teachers, a lot of times those meetings took place at 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon, teachers were already here, those representatives were already here in the building finishing things up, so that their day wasn't any longer.
Any other discussion?
That is one other thing. Also, I have abstained every time that we negotiated with the teachers union, even when I was chairperson or not, because my daughter's. So I understand.
Any abstentions? All those opposed? Can you tell it's still ayes? I apologize. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, Tech Committee. I would nominate Haley Kaiser and David Hart. Do I have a second?
Yep, I'll second.
Any discussion?
we don't typically have the RSU people sit on the committees except for contractual agreement that we policy. So now you're trying to have them sit on a committee.
I'd like their input.
I absolutely support their input, but I'm just,
Yeah, I mean, there's no changes that happen in tech committee. You guys don't vote, do you? Of course not. Yeah,
also think on RC1, the high school is probably the largest technology demand, so there's a clear correlation there between their authorization to be on high school issues and to have input within the technology. It gives an opportunity for us to get a wider breadth of knowledge of what's going on, so I support it.
I mean, we're down a number right now, so as we know, so in November when we have another, then we can certainly revisit these. But I think if Dave is willing to do it, I'd like to have him, but just I think more knowledge is great. There's no decisions made, like I said. And the other thing I'd like to have us really think about is facilities, technology, and one other one that I'm going to mention. Perhaps maybe we even need to look at having those be quarterly, not necessarily monthly. Alex has been doing a great job really reporting out to us, and the tech committee really made a lot of traction last year, and I'm appreciative of that, so potentially looking at that, and then having a rotating schedule. Any other discussion on the tech committee? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, negotiations. I would like to be on that. I was on it one other time, and Ryan Benziano, I know you've had some experience with that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, I'd like to propose, so like I mentioned, facilities being quarter, so tech committee, perhaps we could start off with that one being the first one, facilities being the second one. I'd really like to have us consider doing a curriculum committee. I know that we have a full-time curriculum coordinator, but I think it's really an opportunity for the curriculum committee to really dive into the test scores and the education of our students. We've heard from public comment, and I think that that really is got to be a focus of the committee over the next several years. So I'd like to propose that we consider adding that. I don't know what it looks like, but I just would like feedback from the committee on that.
That's something I've obviously supported for a year now. So I think adding that as a quarterly group, we can start as a small group that can start educating our committee, and then start looking out into what are some of the issues that we have to deal with and how they're best dealt with. I think it's a great starting point.
So I'll make a motion so we can have more discussion. I make a motion to add that as a subcommittee. Again, it would be quarterly. It would be the third one in the rotations. We'd be a couple months out, so we'd have more time to discuss it. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Can I just make a comment that I think that if you're going to have that type of a committee, the important thing is to have a good explanation of how the testing takes place, because you can have the best curriculum format, but every time our teachers and our staff, doesn't matter what district you're in, they gear up to prepare for testing, and then the state decides before you even get the results sometimes that they want to change the format. So I think to get an insight into how the testing process goes would be a benefit to how it affects the curriculum.
I obviously support having a curriculum committee, except for this is where I feel the teachers need to be involved in this type of a committee, so that we can actually hear from them what's working, what isn't working, what they need, how they would like it to work, and also where we just hired a curriculum coordinator full-time and who is very skilled at what she does. I think that having her have an input, I'm sure she's working with the teachers. I don't know if this is the right time. I think we need to be involved, and we want to hear how we can best support them, but I don't know if we actually need a committee to do that, or we need to just work with Ms. Levine and the teachers. I don't know if that's, we're open to having them. So, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I agree with Haley. I think if you do set up a committee like this, it really needs to be an informational committee. So that you're there not trying to change the curriculum, you're
some of the principals, I feel like they are being very proactive at getting and hearing from the teachers, looking at the test boards, coming up with solutions to combat the low numbers. So I feel like they're actually already doing those things. It's going to take time to see that come through on the test. But I think communicating to the board helps us know that we're on the right track and we're giving them what they need. But so I'm not opposed to having frequency. I just want to be very collaborative, I guess, if we're getting feedback from them.
I agree with you on it. I really agree with you. It's great feedback to be able to have the teachers and the administration. Yes, they're already doing it. I just want to make sure that every single meeting we're really talking about the curriculum and spending the appropriate time on it, because we just haven't had that opportunity over the last few years. So we can talk about what it looks like further. Ryan, I would assume that you have interest in being on that committee because you've been.
Yeah, and I've been bringing it up for a year now, so it's something I'd be very interested in.
Haley, would you be interested in that one? Okay. So I would make a motion that we look into what that looks like further with Haley and Ryan being on that. So that's a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
And I'm sure Mrs. Green should be included.
Oh, well, she would be the one in charge of that. I would hope. For me, there's a couple of things that it's just a good opportunity to talk about it that we really should look at. I know that in the past, through the Gifted and Talented program, that 8th graders have the opportunity to be able to take classes up at the 9th grade. I think that's a very important opportunity that shouldn't be overlooked. I understand that perhaps needs can be met in the middle school, but that's also an opportunity that I'd really like to have an explanation and have a process as to can we offer that opportunity to them, and just making sure that we're not just catering to the students that aren't necessarily performing, that we're really looking at that other top percentage too, and meeting all their needs as well. So I think that's an opportunity. I also think it's an opportunity, whether or not this falls within this, and I know that Ryan Walsh and I had a great conversation today. It's really time for us to go back to, as he calls it, 2019 standards, where you don't get to turn in all your homework if you're in high school on the last day of the semester. That's not fair to teachers. That's not setting our students up for success to allow that. And I really think it's an opportunity to go back to, as we talked about, those 2019 procedures. You don't get to retake tests because you're an athlete and you need to qualify to be on that sports team. It's really, we've got to be setting our students up for success, in my mind, and really something that we need to look at. And I know Ryan's already on top of that and talking with him. They had a meeting to discuss that in June, and I think that there's going to be more communication coming out on that. And I think as a committee, we really need to consider supporting we've got to set, and it's not that we're not setting our students up for success, but we really cannot be allowing one teacher to be accepting late work and another not. There's got to be consistency with the students and amongst the teachers. We just absolutely have to get to that in our mind. There's always going to be exceptions to the rule. Maybe somebody's terminally ill, whatever it may be. But I know it's been a practice over the last few years that you've been allowed to turn in all your work on the last week of the quarter. And that's just, it's not how the real world works. We don't get to miss a mortgage payment and then ask the credit bureau, oops, can I have that erased? No, we gotta really set them up for success. Do you want to add anything to that, Brian? I just think that those are things that could be. Do you want to add to that, Patty?
I would just say, I want us to be very careful that we're not micromanaging those things, because some of those are administrative decisions that really need to be made at the building level, because that's where it can be enforced. We truly do not have any enforcement at this level. We have to trust our administrators and certainly talk to them, tell them what our expectations are, what our hopes are, but I really think that's where your curriculum don't believe can be informatively by getting that information, is calling them, rather than trying to direct them.
So just to piggyback on what Zoe was saying, we had a meeting here at the high school on June 20th, and this is, the school year ended, we got the holiday, we then had 22 people come to a meeting, and these are over 20 teachers, that's half our teaching staff, and we worked on our action planning, that's our school improvement plan. But one of the big items of discussion was our academic expectations, and getting those back in line to where we are more consistent across the board. That discussion happened at the department head level, it happened at the school improvement level, it happened at the action planning level. And so we have a draft, I have a draft of the document, and when Solar and I were having this conversation, I said, I'll be sharing that with the school board, because we do want to hold our students to a higher standard. We want our expectations to be clear and consistent, and we want our kids to be successful. And the fact is, we do want to get back to a level where we think our students can achieve. And the reality is, by raising the bar back to where the bar was, our students will raise up and do the work they need to do. But that conversation has been going on here for about 2 years, and we had a wonderful meeting on June 20th, and started that process of looking at those expectations and making sure we have a document that we'll share with students and parents, sort of the school board. But I'll also need support when we go and roll that out. And the first time we don't get a no or a phone call, it takes a bit to change habits, and we'd like to change those habits back to good habits. I shared with you our rubrics that we'll be working on for our students and our guiding principles and our vision of the graduate. These are all tied together. And so when we were working at that meeting, we also had those documents in front of us, and what we expect of our graduates and what our mission is. So it does tie it all together. It's something we've been working on, and I would be happy to share with you as we will be sending out to parents and students. In August, we will be meeting with the students the first 2 days. The teachers will be sharing in their first day meetings, and we want our expectations to be high enough, but also attainable by our students. So I thought I would share that with the board. It was a very good day on June 20th with, as I said, half the teaching staff here to work on those. Any questions, Paul? Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have this roof committee. Did anyone have any interest in that? I don't know how. It doesn't exist anymore.
As group members, I'm sorry, the name of it changed, and so it's the superintendent that would be part of that table, group of folks. So it's not something forward for us 4 months ago.
Perfect. All right, scratch that. Take that one.
Well, there though, I believe in my report to you, I mentioned that we do not have a representative now on the Region 1, and the Region 4 board. Tim Shockey, as representing Hermon, I'm going to say for close to 30 years, used to be a requirement and had to be a school committee member, and has since changed to somebody who is interested and will represent our communities. Unfortunately, RSU 87's board meeting is on Thursday nights, and that's exactly when Region 4 meets. So my question is, do we have someone on this committee who would like to be part of the Region 4 board? They meet, I think, once a month on Thursday nights. And if we don't have anyone, then we need to recruit someone from the community who will represent Hermon, Carmel, and on that Region 4 board, which Region 4 oversees UTC. Where a great number of our students go for half of their day to United Technologies.
Mr. Brian?
Sure.
I nominate Brian for that one. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Ms. Brian? Yeah. All those in favor? I think that's it for subcommittees. You want to talk about the reading program?
I'm going to invite Mrs. Bean back from the reading program. If you wanted to ask questions, would you be able to after? Or if there are questions about either the reading program or? So.
Yes, there's an additional, there's an addition to your packet that is a PowerPoint that goes with the packet today. So to start off with, currently what we are using, or what we have been using, are the teachers' college units of study, known as the Calkins units. We've used them for writing for a long time, and I'm not sure exactly how long we've been using them for reading, but it is the most recent program that we have used. We have had some concerns about how that's been working, and kind of all at the same time, I came on board, and the state of Maine announced that there are $10 million available in literacy grants. So I got together with Melissa Davis. We started looking into whether this is something that we would be interested in applying for. I have written about this before in my reports, but I just wanted to kind of do a little update because I know we have people that that weren't necessarily a part of the board that are now. So what we really did is we tried to dig in and say, okay, what is it and do we need it? And okay, there we go. So this slide tells a little bit about what the literacy grants are awarded for, and also some of the teaching systems that they support in instruction. So you can read down through that. You also have it. So this looks like it looked like it overlapped with what our values were as a department and as a school, and we also had the need there. Yes, it aligned, and yes, the reasons why were this. We looked at our NWEA scores, and though we have the units of study, it's supplemented by Letterland for phonics because that was absent. We used multiple different assessments to to be able to give us feedback about how we were doing. Those include the Letterland assessments and NWEA that we are doing both for our state assessment, but there's also a reading fluency piece of that for our younger students, the K2 students. At the elementary school, and then we also use Fontes and Canal to give us information about where our students are, what kind of supports they would need to be more successful in the area of reading. We also have our Title I program. We've had a literacy coach to support what we're doing in the classroom. And we've had leveled literacy interventions. So that tells a little bit about what we already had, and we're kind of pulling from a bunch of different places. But when we looked at what our scores were for NWEAs, we could see that we weren't quite where we wanted to be. And when we dug deeper into those NWEA scores, we could see that comprehension and phonics were areas that we needed more concentration. And And while we do have interventions for Title I and for Tier 3, so that would be some of our youngest readers, and then some of our students, Tier 3 would, like, Tier 1 is in the classroom, Tier 2 is small groups within the classroom, and Tier 3 is an additional level of support. A lot of those focus on decoding and being able, filling in the gaps with skills for what they need to be able to be better readers. But we also did find that we were able to address comprehension and fluency deficiencies with the program that we already had. So the second reason I kind of started to talk about this a little bit is that we really didn't have all of the literacy principles covered by one program, and we're kind of seeing what we currently have, the areas that we need, what are we going to have to be able to do that, and the units of study didn't quite cover all of the areas that we needed for it to. So that goes along with and adds another layer to what the scores tell us. And then the third factor that we had that we identified as we applied for this grant was that we had those COVID years, and in addition to not having students in school, it also interrupted the way that we do Title I referrals for our 3rd and 4th graders. You know, there was remote learning during that time, and it was difficult to do the most effective practices when we were remote or in school for a reduced amount of days. So we had applied for the grant. We were awarded $32,177.22, and we needed to make a plan. So this is what we've done so far with the plan. All of these things go along with what we have identified as steps in the literacy grant. So we created a literacy team, and we got together that team. It was comprised of 2 teachers at each grade level, plus the literacy coach and somebody from the title team. So we made a list of non-negotiables together, what we felt that the program needed to have, and maybe what some deal breakers were too. So, you know, we kind of wanted to go into it with a clear picture of what we wanted. And then we took a look at, I want to say every program out there, maybe we missed some, but we started looking and to see what it would make sense for us to pilot. If we knew that there was something that didn't go along with what our literacy team determined that they needed, we went on to the next. We found 2 great programs to pilot. One was Being a Reader, the other was Amplify CKLA. We started around April vacation. We started doing professional development in the beginning of April. Teachers got all of their materials to be able to pilot, and most were able to be up and running right after April vacation. So they did that pretty much through till the month of the end of May. We had hoped that it was going to be May 15th, but some materials took a little longer, and we thought that we really needed to stick with an amount of time to really give it a good chance rather than to stick with the date on the calendar for us. So we had, at each grade level, there was 1 teacher piloting each. The exception to that would be in 5th grade, because this year in 5th grade there was just 1 teacher teaching reading, and it was a reading program that we were looking at. And so these were the teachers that were involved. Amplify was presented to us as an option that would cover both reading and writing, and the way that those 2 processes work together. Being a Reader has had a strong reading portion, and they have a complementary program for writing as well. And they let us let 2 teachers, 2nd and 4th grade, go ahead and pilot that too. So we said, if we have people that are willing to do it and we're doing it in conjunction with the reading, then it kind of makes sense for us to take a look at that same time too. Although we're not looking to start with that anytime soon, next year. So all of these teachers went together. We had a meeting, we had feedback on each group of teachers had their own professional development, and I would say it was at least 6 hours of professional development that they had from the companies, both to go through. We had visits from some of the support staff from the companies to come in and take a look, and that was the being a reader. All of those teachers got together, presented, and there was a vote by all of the teachers at the elementary school. And I included a little snapshot here. So their choices were to look at Amplify CKLA, to adopt being a reader, or to stay with what we currently had. And you can see that 100% of our teachers supported this being a reader program. And we do have quite a few teachers at the elementary school, and to say that I was thoroughly impressed that 100% wanting this was impressive. In presenting this, teachers got a chance to ask questions. They were able to talk to the teachers that piloted, both of them, so they were able to get a really good picture of what it was if they didn't pilot themselves, and they also had discussions at their grade level meetings prior to this too. So we are looking to implement the Being a Reader program. The company is Collaborative Classroom that promotes this, and some of the reasons why, and this is all in your handout that we gave, but these were collected from the teachers. They were also part of the PowerPoint that teachers were presented with. Some of the biggest things that they liked was the availability of Tier 2 interventions, and then also extensions for all lessons. Teachers thought that that the program was engaging, that there were a lot of ways to track their students, and lots of formative assessments to go together with that, and that the books that they had were really interesting and engaging for students. And one of the best things was that students were, it was kind of teaching them to have conversations about books and writing and sort of, rather than just answering questions, it was developing that ability to have discussions within their group, and that goes all the way through and is weaved throughout. There were a lot of online resources for teachers and for students. With this program, it is a 7-year contract for us to work with them. The biggest part of the cost with this is buying not really the licenses, but the actual books and some of the things that go with it. Some of the numbers are up in the air. We obviously know what we have for the literacy grant, but we'd also be looking to see what we already have for professional development budget and things like that we could use for training our teachers so that they're really getting the most out of this. We are, in the perfect world, we would love to be able to implement this K-5 in the first year, but we also know, in looking at it, we might not be able to handle that the first part through because of the cost. And so we're going to look and see what it is, and if it means that we need to do K2 1 year and 3-5 the next year, we have 100% of teachers, and we're committed to taking this on. And there was a follow-up of being a writer too, and that's in there, but we're don't need to go into that part of that.
You have questions here, or?
I was wondering if, would you mind staying at the podium and then we could go back up on the stage and ask you some questions? Would that be okay?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's okay with everyone, then that would, everyone can hear better. I'm actually going to take a motion and then we'll have it open it up to discussion, Melissa, if that's okay. So I make a motion to approve the new reading program for the Patricia A. Durham School. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's open it up for discussion. Caitlin, have you?
I guess one of the first questions I had, so this is basically K through 5, and when I look at the testing scores, in some of the feedback from the educators, it really seems that the 5th grade class is one of those that are having a really hard time with reading. Is there going to be any focus, or is there some proactive plans? I haven't talked to Mr. Freeman, it's not on my list of things to do, but is there a proactive plan to address that particular grade? Because when I think of the younger students, and I could be wrong, I'm not an educator, but when I think of the younger students, they still have a chance to implement these phonetic rules and these lessons when they're in first and kindergarten, second grade, where these older kids, it's like a snowball and it's gonna keep getting worse. And I'm sure you probably have something, so I don't know if you can elaborate on that, if there's a plan or how this might help them, because it sounds more like it's geared to the younger years.
This is a K-5 program. Ultimately, when we started looking, we were like, if we could find something that would be K-8, that would be great. But in all honesty, it doesn't really work like that. It tends to be K-5, sometimes K-6, and then 7 through 12. It's kind of its own different animal, if you will. So we do plan on implementing this in 5th grade as part of what we're doing. 5th grade teachers would also be included in the professional development of that. And I anticipate that it's going to take us a little bit of time which is one thing that's great about having a 7-year license, is that we're able to see it through a whole cycle of kids. But one thing that we do, there are level books for each of the grade levels, and there is some overlap there. But then there's also access to those books if there are groups of students or individual students that are at a lower level or have a different need. So the other thing about this program is that it dovetails nicely with the SIPS program, which is something that a lot of schools use on its own without the reading or the writing component. But the biggest thing that we're working toward is trying to get a comprehensive program that will get all of those things more or less in one place for the students in the professional development to be able to pinpoint what students need and then get that to them.
So when it sounds like you say comprehension, so are they doing spelling and vocabulary part of their curriculum in those years?
Yes.
One of the things I was going to ask, and first of all, thank you. This is amazing, amazing work. So thank you for that. But when I hear you say the cost, is it cost or is it resource? Meaning teachers. Meaning, I thought I heard you say that because of the cost, we could only offer K through 2.
It would be the cost of what the resources are, not the human resources, but it would be the book groups, the other. When I talked to the representatives, I had them quote this out in about 7 different ways. One was to do the whole project with everything that we need K-5. And a part of this is that there is a classroom library for every classroom that has 120 books, 60 nonfiction and 60 fiction, that would dovetail with the with what they're using for instruction. So it's kind of like their independent reading library. So that is kind of an add-on. It's definitely, we would love to have it, but I had them also price it without it. And then did the same thing for what it would cost for us to purchase all of the materials for K2 with and without those libraries, and for 3-5 with and without those libraries. And then professional development is a different cost altogether. But part of the way that instead of having somebody come in for a lot of money and sit all day long, they'll have several shorter Zoom kind of supports where they would be working directly with grade level groups of teachers, or it might be K2, it might be just 5, depending on what the need is. And then they also support with some in-person walkthroughs, doing model lessons, and some of the on-site coaching kind of things that they provide. So it's a combination of the cost for the materials and then the professional development to be able to have our teachers be introduced well enough to be able to use everything to its fullest extent. We don't want to just throw a bunch of books in teachers' way and then say, here, use this. We want to make sure that they can do it to the best of their ability.
What program
Putting you on the spot, and sorry, Brian, putting you on the spot, you might not know this number, but I guess I just would like to know what that number is to see, do we have those dollars to be able to spend?
So it's roughly, it's about a little less than $17,000 per grade level. It depends on the grade level because some of the grades we have more classes than others. The younger grades tend to be a little bit more expensive because kids kind of progress through the levels more quickly at younger levels, so the amount of book sets that they need are more. So about 17,000 per. So if we did everything for all of them, it's around $100,000.
But I think to Ms. Keyes' point, it addresses the fact that if we're only looking at the younger grades early on, then that, I don't want to say problem, but it's only going to continue to compound. So I guess I would prefer to the administration.
What are we currently using? Last year, there was we transitioned over to fines last year. What are we currently doing to require change?
We are using the units of study for reading along with that phonics part.
So,
and we would still keep the phonics program that we have and work together.
So how long have we been using the units of study for learning?
At least 10 years before I was with the program.
For reading or just writing?
Who was there before? I don't know, I think this is there, and I think you were here maybe doing it. It's been at least 10 years.
The units of study for writing have been a really long time, and reading is fairly newer than that, but it's still been a decade.
No, I'm just trying to get my head around it. What we've currently been doing to what used to be changed to the price tag that comes along with it. And I just don't have the information in front of me to look at it. It's not that I'm opposed to it, I just don't have enough data in front of me.
We can certainly bring you that data, that would be, helpful to you. I think what Mrs. Dean is saying was, they will examine the budget and see what money has been allocated. Certainly, it's too late to change that at this point. And if they started it in K1 and 2, those students, by the time they got to grade 3 and 4 and 5, the program would be expanded. It would be those students who are ahead of that at this point would be a bit of a disadvantage. But
Is
once
that,
they got in the program, they would continue in that program.
is that an annual cost or a one-time cost?
It's a one-time cost. There are a few consumables that would be, like writers, reading notebooks and reflection notebooks, things like that, that I'm unsure about if teachers would still use what is given by the company or whether it's something that they can sort of do with a notebook on their own, but it would just be that consumable piece. The libraries and the book groups and all of those things are for the classroom. The only thing that we might have to, if we had a larger group or had an additional grade at a grade level in the future, we may have to purchase an additional set just for that one classroom. But it seems like we're kind of leveling off on the enrollment and the number of grade levels that we have in each grade, classrooms at each grade level.
I did have one question I was gonna ask. It may have to do with this, and it may, I was gonna ask it from your report. Where those fifth graders are now sixth graders, is there something being proactively done to deal with the literacy issues with that grade level currently outside of this program? Is there?
Yes, Mr. Freeman could probably
It might be,
speak to this
yeah,
a little
it-
bit
it-
more.
it-
But there's response to intervention, so it's targeted time to work on interventions with students, both reading and math, at all grade levels at the middle school. And there is designated study hall time for those students. Very much the way that the high school has 2 intervention times, they would have 5 across where they could go and work with their teachers.
I just see like if we're doing that and it's not equating to success and it's not gaining, then are we doing something different? And it's kind of those discussions that might be outside of this program, it sounds like, but yeah.
I wouldn't quite be able to answer that without using the program and then seeing what we're left with. We can mostly look at the program that we're currently using, where the shortfalls are, and how we're trying to plug those gaps. And then what our assessment data is showing us. And we kind of have a perfect storm of things here with our programming, testing scores, COVID delays, and some of those things. So we're trying to make the best decision for all of those factors.
How much of this was grant money? We had the initial grant money of $32,000. Of the price that we're looking at, $17,000 per grade. How much of that is covered by grant, or is grant already expended?
The grant is not already expended, but it would be coupled with some of the other grant money that we would be getting, the federal grant money. So in the budget process, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong here, Melissa, that in the budget process, as they're putting that all together, they're thinking about and budgeting for supplies that would be for programs that we already have. So Melissa and I would need to get together with Jamie Youngblood and look at our current budget and see what we have that we would have been spending on something else, and putting it together with the grant money that we have to then figure out how much we'll be able to fund the first time around. For example, RSU 22, they implemented K2 last year of this program, and then this coming year they're doing 3-5, and though that's kind of the breakdown where K2 there were similarities in those fundamental processes and fundamental things that are needed for reading. So get to K2 and not cut it at a different point. You know, ultimately, if we had the money, we would do K5 all of it and start to track it all the way through.
So can I just make sure that we stick to the motion and I understand it? So we've made the motion in the second, and that's for you guys to be able to implement this reading program. And then is it possible that next time you could come back to us with numbers? Are you able to implement it all? Or what those numbers look like? Does that seem fair? That
Yes,
you
we
need-
absolutely will be able to implement it. To what extent is dependent upon the numbers. And then we would be looking to writing the grants for next year and budgeting so that we can do the second half if we need to split it.
Yeah, and so that is great.
So we're talking about implementing, and we still don't know the price yet of the increase, which is partially holding me back. And also, what are the assumed your desired outcomes? So you're going to be able to have an opportunity to look at the testing of a group that did pilot, or a group that last year's testing compared to next year's testing to see if the program is actually having the desired outcomes before we buy into the whole K through 5 program.
Well, we would have to start using the program and with fidelity through the years of the contract, and we would be able to compare them to our testing scores for our students of what they had before. But when we're looking at what the pilot was, it was a unit or two from the whole program, because they just piloted from April through the unit for a month, some got into a little bit more.
Melissa, I realized that I made a mistake and I didn't give the opportunity for public comment for the new business. I'm a little rusty. So, do we have any more questions for Melissa?
Well, I mean, it's not that I'm against the program. I want the absolute best program that money can buy. I just want to know what money I need to buy it, and this is the best. I'm not against any of it. I seem to have I've made more questions and things that I've understood, which might be why I'm
Okay. Well, I think that through this process of piloting, we've gone through to pick what is the best program for what our needs are. So I feel confident, and I think that our teachers also feel confident in saying that they think that this is the right direction for us to go in. So as far as picking out the best program, I think that we've done our due diligence there by utilizing the parameters of the grant and the steps of the grant, and to keep following through with that. By looking at what it is that we are getting versus what we have been using, we can anticipate that we would see better testing scores, but I can't promise that because we haven't done it yet.
Could we get a recommendation from our superintendent?
So I think the fact that they piloted this, it gives us a lot of good information. This is the process that we've used in the past, where we pilot something, have teachers make a decision on what they want to use, and then move forward. And Mrs. Davis is absolutely correct. She says the program that we're currently using is aged, and I think it is time to look at something new. We can come back next meeting and let you know what the cost would be to implement it K2, what would be K3, and what would be if we have K5, and let you know what we already have in the budget to do and see if we can get a little more information that way.
I just want to make sure that that's an awesome point. I want to make sure that would hold you up and allow you to be able to get the materials for next time. So we're making the motion for you guys to move forward with that program, and I want to be able to have it from day one with students.
Okay, yeah, if you are indeed approving this program for us, our intent is to look and see how far how we can support it to which grade level and implement as much of it as we can while being financially responsible. And so at this point, we are looking for the approval of the program, and then we can provide you more information about timelines, cost, and the breakdown of what we'll look at. Because some of that amount we just started looking at, because Friday, last week we just got the books. So it's like happening in real time. So
Thank you.
Melissa, is there anything that I didn't mention that? Oh,
Brian's a numbers guy, so I understand that.
You're hurting my head.
So our intent really is to take the remainder of the grant, and we're still waiting for some of that to be processed, to see exactly how much we have left in that $32,000 grant. Then we also have Title V funds, which Melissa had presented on the titles that we're going to be applying for. And so that's a relatively large amount of money. So Melissa's responsibility is to look at the other costs that we usually take out of Title V, and we're still waiting for some of that information to come in for the 24-25 school year. So we can apply for some of that remaining money for that curriculum out of Title V. And then also I budget every year for supplemental materials from the former curriculum. So there's money built into the budget that we've already budgeted for reading curriculum. And so we're going to take a look at that amount of money as well. I'm confident that it would cover at least the K-2 implementation without an additional cost from what we've already budgeted for. But it is possible that we would be able to also do the 3-5 implementation. But like I said, we're still waiting for a couple of numbers so that we can finalize that. But Melissa and I can get that to you as soon as possible. But I am confident that this is the best curriculum. Since I've been principal, it comes up every year in teacher feedback. We need to do something about our reading curriculum. It's not meeting our students' needs. And so when this grant came about for literacy, we thought that this was the perfect opportunity to at least take some grant money and try to figure out what would work best for us. I hope that helps a little bit.
It does, yep.
Thank you. Okay, thank you both. And like I mentioned, I made a mistake and I want to open it up to public comment before we take the vote.
I just wanted to say, one of the things, well, first of all, I want to say you guys are knocking me out of the park tonight. The collaboration, the respect, how you're treating each other, the conversations you're having, the fact that we are starting the first meeting with curriculum is absolutely amazing, and thank you. It's a credit to all of you. I appreciate starting this year this way. As you know, most of you know, I've been in the numbers in the budget up to my elbows for the last 3 years, and I strongly advocate for starting this K-5. If you can't do it in your budget, I would work with the town council to figure out what we have to do to make it happen on a citywide level. This is important. Reading is so important to our kids, and there's no reason to delay this. Our town and our school both have adequate funds to make this happen. We're really talking about chunk change compared to what we're sitting on in our accounts. I strongly advocate, no matter what hoops have to be jumped through, we make this happen for our kids, because as Brian said, they deserve the best and anything God, and we have the money to buy it. And I just want to advocate for that. We had an amazing town, an amazing school. You guys are so responsible with your funds. Last year, we're coming in under budget, so there are, again, additional funds available. There is no reason why we can't access K-5. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Nolan, I'm not sure how many committee members actually looked at the last page of your packet. Going through the year-to-date budget, the numbers here is $1.1 million potentially left over. I know there's things that come in at the end of the year that we hear from our budget person. I can't name, I'm sorry, I said budget person. I know there's approximately $460,000, $500,000 that the previous superintendent had suggested moving into reserves and that stuff. That still leaves enough money that you all didn't spend on these wonderful teachers back there. So just approve the $110,000, $120,000, whatever it is, because you got the money that you didn't spend and you didn't budget correctly, and spend it on. That's where it should go. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Freeman, I'll get you under the administrative report, if that's okay.
I was going to speak about this.
For Pat's?
For the 5th grade curriculum. And there was just a lot of concerns brought up about 5th grade specifically, and I just wanted to speak to those.
Okay.
So I just had 2 comments to make in regards to specifically the curriculum. The first is we did also pilot a curriculum from 6th to 8th grade for reading specifically. Unfortunately, we could not come to consensus yet, nor do we have necessarily the funds to be able to do that at this time. There is an intent to work with Mrs. Dean and the 6th to 8th grade teachers to determine what that would look like in the future. We also see that if you look at all the grade levels in the middle school, our percentiles are not any different than the elementary schools. They all fall between the 40th and 55th percentile for growth, 5th grade through 8th grade. And we don't think that's good enough. We think that we can do better. Units of study from Mrs. Hawkins has been recently disproven that it works as well as they originally said 20 years ago. And that's why we need to find reading programs that make more sense for now. Specifically speaking to 5th grade, I did see a lower, I look at the data every time we do it. We did have a 35% of our students in 5th grade made presentations and reading. I think that there is, if you look at the fall data, that is a big difference. And we did have a long-term sub in there in the last 8 weeks of school. And we did not do the testing in the same environment that we did it in the fall, nor did they have the end of the year instruction the same way they have the beginning of the year instruction. So I'm interested to see when they start the new year with this next 6th grade to see where that data falls, because I suspect that they're going to be back to where we suspected to be at.
Can I speak to that?
I just want to be clear, I wasn't viewing this as a 5th grade curriculum or 5th grade issue. I mean the class as a whole. Because I've been hearing this is 3rd grade and the 4th graders, so it's not a grade level. I'm thinking of that particular class, not the 5th grade teachers or curriculum. It's something I keep hearing each year from those teachers. So as I'm moving along, I'm seeing this snowball, and just wasn't sure. But like you said, I agree that it's a school-wide issue, and I know you're being proactive at the programs. I just was curious, is there something where it's that class, I should say class, not grade, class?
I would say that if you look at the data, COVID impacted certain grade levels and certain subjects differently. So if you take our 6th grade going to 7th grade students, they were heavily impacted in the area of math. They were impacted because they lost that 3rd grade time frame of where you focus on rote memorization of multiplication tables, addition, subtraction, and they're losing out on some of those foundational skills. The same can be said about our 5th grade students, where they lost that 1st, 2nd, 3rd, which is that foundation to read and I asked the 3rd.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're ready to take a vote. Do we have any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, administrative reports. Patty, did you want to go over anything on yours? Perfect. Did we have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, did you want to give any sort of update on I know it's within the reports, but just for the public, like, of the projects that have been completed, or maybe, you had in there that there's been the awning and the ramps and pads have been done. There's several public fields projects, and baseball field fences have been done. Just
Right off the bat, I know that Mr. Bridges reported to me that they actually got rid of 28 servers that were not being used. So that's been cleaned out. Yes, the ramps and the awnings at the elementary school are on the way. I don't know if those are finished yet. And I had several communications with other superintendents and most importantly, the board and administrators. So do not hesitate to call, come in, email, drop by.
I just wanted to thank the nurses on their health office summary that they put out. You know, we don't very often talk about what our nursing staff does. What we got to see the animal numbers, and it was in a way it's sad to see how much nursing assistants we need in our schools, but it's good to know that we have the nurses that are doing that, and they're doing great services for our students. On the special services, there was a note in there that the Department of Education will be conducting a special education review next year. Is that next year is in 2025, or is it next year is the next school year, which we're actually looking at 2026? Does anybody know?
I believe it's this coming school year,
This coming
it's
school.
24, 25.
And then, obviously, Mrs. Davis, I look at things of my past, I look at things a whole lot differently. So when I see something such as a special education review, which is going to be an annual or biannual review or inspection of something, are there any, it's an open-ended question, I don't expect an answer tonight, is there a need for any type of assistance? Is there an additional resource that is needed? Please get to, let us know if there's any sort of resources needed to make sure that that review goes well, so our special education programs receive that state review in the best light possible. And then just to put again, I don't expect an answer, but I noticed there were several buses that were out for warranty work and body shop work. I see Tony shaking his head because I've never been able to get a vehicle in and out of the body shop in the time frame that I wanted. So knowing we've got four buses out of the fleet, will that be a problem? And is there something that needs to be done proactively to make sure that we can fill all the routes and, I guess we're thinking that far out. And I was going to ask a question over title funding to see that we were, the total amounts over 2024 versus 2025 is a reduction of $14,000. What does that impact? And what changes should be made, or should we make any changes to the loss of $14,000 across the title programs? Is that something worth addressing, or something you can just send me an email later?
I'll come down to you.
Okay.
Title funds tend to fluctuate year to year based on the federal formula for calculating how many students qualify for those funds based on a number of factors. So we're typically given about the same amount every year for Title I, but those other titles are more in flux. And so usually we make sure that our essential programs are covered. So our Title I program, our staff and their needs for the title program itself at the Durham School is covered. Then we usually move those funds into Title V, where we can create some special projects. That just impacts what special projects we're able to create. So in this case, a lot of those funds in Title V are going to go toward paying for the implementation, hopefully, of that reading program. And so it would just impact how much we're able to spend out of Title V on the reading program. So we tend to kind of, we do our CNA, our needs assessment, and then we adjust what we're able to cover for our needs in Title V, depending on how much money we get. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, you understand me because you say Brian's a numbers guy, but I look at this as we would really like to to have a clear picture of this when we're doing the full budget, so that all, we can have visibility of it, also that if you have an expected reduction in such as a title, we can make the needed adjustments so that our students get what they need.
Absolutely. So the most important project that needs to be funded is the Title I program themselves. And so the flexibility within those titles, we can move money from different titles to address that cost. So we can move all of our funds into Title I if we wanted to, or we move remaining funds into Title V. So we make sure that that essential program that students need, we make sure that that's covered. The rest is for those special projects, like I said. So in the past, we've used some of that money to cover the cost of curriculum planning in high school. So paying teachers to work over the summer and do some curriculum planning. A reduction in that amount of money in Title V would mean that we could offer only so many hours. So we would just kind of make those adjustments.
Okay, thank you.
There's an answer. That's something about it. So you'll see in Mrs. Dern's report that there was a concern from a parent in regards to Hermon Middle School and specifically algebra and geometry classes. And wanted to give a little history on this subject and then a solution that we came up with moving forward. A little history is back in March. I met with Leslie Smith, Brian Walsh, our school counselor, Lisa Roy, our math teachers, and looked at the number of students going to the high school next year, which was the highest number of students we've ever sent to high school. Additionally, the incoming class at the high school is about 160 students large, which is one of their largest classes coming into the high school. And looking at the feasibility, it did not look like at that time that it'd be feasible to bring students from the middle school to the high school. And at the middle school, we had staffing to be able to do it. And at that time, we had algebra and geometry separated into 2 classes when we made that initial decision. However, administratively, you have to look at class numbers as time goes on to make sure that you're doing what's best by all students. And at the recommendation of our 8th grade math teacher, it was recommended in April that we combine algebra and geometry into a single class. And that was to be taught in a way such that she can teach the algebra concepts first, followed by the geometry subjects, and then use the algebra concepts that she taught at the beginning of the class to be able to supplant the geometry, to be able to expand upon it moving forward, to make sure that they get the most out of the material, and then also got a reinforcement of their algebra going into high school. However, in hearing concerns about that plan, I worked with 2 of our teachers, Mrs. Harvey and Mr. Pierce, our 7th grade social studies teacher and our 8th grade math teacher, and we will be offering algebra and geometry as 2 separate classes. Mrs. Harvey is a certified high school teacher. She is certified to teach that class and do it well, and I have the utmost faith that she's going to do it well. Mr. Pierce is certified to also teach the math 8 that he's taking on to take off Mrs. Harvey's caseload. There is a negative ramification out of this, and that is it increases our 7th grade social studies classes to be, instead of being between 16 and 18, they're between 22 and 24, which is still below many of the classes that I've taught before. It is definitely not an unreasonable number, and it still allows for our students to be able to access all of their teachers and have RTI. But I want to make sure that I heard that concern, I worked with the teachers, and we have addressed that concern.
What have you done to, because it's more, I agree, there's just it allows the students to develop in different levels other than just education, to be able to take those classes up in high school. I've been able to witness that firsthand. What are you doing to offer advanced English or other subjects as well?
Our 7th grade English teacher, again, because our 7th grade class is smaller, is teaching 3 sections of 7th grade English and teaching a GT specific class to 6 or 7 students at the high school level at the middle school. And what really helps by keeping them in the middle school is it allows them to continue on the same schedule. We were having students having the most random study halls that we had to provide coverage for, and in addition, we had to provide a van back and forth between the high school, essentially paying for an entire full-time person to transport students from the middle school to the high school. These students that are in the 8th grade will still have the opportunity to go into 10th grade English. These students will still have the opportunity to go into Algebra 2 going into the high school.
Anything anything else with the administrative reports? We'll just take them as presented. And we'll take the finance report as presented unless there's any specific questions. In committee reports, if anybody had anything to report on those, I know over the last month we didn't necessarily have any meetings, we had to reschedule the policy.
Do you have upcoming meeting dates for policy? I know you made a meeting and canceled the meeting. I had requested or asked if we could, when those are posted, if we could all be notified so we'll know because it's changing and then, you know, not a scavenger hunt to find when it's posted.
I would try to come up with a regular schedule so that we know exactly when these are happening. Because waiting until we know who would be on committee to know what their availability is. Now, policy in particular, I'll put together a schedule for these next couple of months, but then we will try very hard to work on teacher schedule so that they can have it right at the end of the school day.
As far as the teachers with that policy committee, maybe you'll have to get back to me on this, but is that something that it's in their contract, but they don't have to be there, they can just be there? Or is it something that they're gonna have to do, that's the contract?
The contract does say they will have representation, so it's spelled out very clearly.
So they have to be there, like, yeah, perfect. Sometimes they just don't comment.
And they sometimes will send someone in their place. If one teacher who is expected to be there can't be there, they'll send someone in their place.
We've been having a regular schedule for all the subcommittees. It was the last Tuesday before the committee meeting, right? Jody, I think is what it was. It was that Tuesday. And I know we did have to reschedule the policy because it started to run over into July. So, we'll go around for possible future agenda items. Debbie? Brian?
No, I'd just like to get the superintendent's meeting going. I think that'll answer most of my questions.
We never had an update on the security audit that was done, and that was supposed to be notified to us or sent to us, so we can have an idea. That's a discussion on whether we want to meet.
We were doing it in an executive session for, Deputy, your Homeland Security, the one that Deputy Boyd had done.
And I haven't received anything that's
The only thing that I wanted to add is we're going to need to set our school committee goals, so I just asked the committee to start to think about those for next time. And also, I would like to be able to have the policy committee review the complaint process, because I know oftentimes things can be solved, not so much at the school committee level. To your point, Patty, the administration is fully capable, so if you have an issue with the coach, just starting at that level and following that appropriate process.
That would be very much appreciated.
Yeah, I just really feel that that is what needs to be done, because we did receive an anonymous letter today for a complaint, and lo and behold, the administration had already taken care of it. So thank you to them. I'll share it with the whole committee so that everybody has what we just got today. Anything else you want to add for possible agenda?
I just would like you to take a look at this report. All it is a condensed version of the cost centers, where they started, what you spent, where they've ended, just cost centers. I don't know how in depth you currently go into the 31 pages, and if this will satisfy your needs, it's pretty easy to do. If you still feel that you need 31 pages, then we'll give you 31 pages. I also have a notification from Drummond Woodsum of a webinar that they're going to do, and it's this Friday from noon to 1:15 p.m. But it's regarding government officials' social media usage. I will be attending. I thought I'd give you the update. If you're interested, please let Mrs. White know no later than Wednesday, so that we can make sure that you get registered.
It says to stay tuned for more information. I've received nothing more yet, but I will be looking into it to make sure that I and anyone who feels they need to be registered gets registered.
Thank you for providing the budget. Let's consider adding that to your point for the next agenda item to get the whole committee's input on that. We'll move on to approval of warrants. I make a motion to approve the 9 warrants listed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries.
We have I'm going to say 30 seconds.
Okay. All right, I make a motion to enter executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A to discuss a personnel matter at 8:36. Do I have a second? Any discussions?
I have just remind you that going into executive session, we take no phones, no bags, no purses, no pens, no paper, no notes. It's information only, and it should take no more than 30 seconds.
Perfect. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Do you like the folders on that table? Is that the spot for?
So did you get my message?
See you later. Here, Miss White.
And this is new for you, isn't it?
This is what I always used to do.
This is the only other thing that we used to have. Oh, good.
Return from executive session at 8:39. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:39 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Rookie move, I like that. Well, I usually get